In this lesson, you will see how to finesse the audio by adding some audio transitions. So like I mentioned in the last lesson, I think this cut at this point is looking pretty good. But some of these audio transitions are not very nice sounding. They sound a little abrupt and a little rough around the edges. Now you're going to learn more about effects in the next 2 lessons, but I did want to go over some basic audio transitions which can be found right here in the effects panel. So if you jump down here, underneath audio transitions, there's only one folder, and that's crossfade. And there are 3 default audio transitions. You have constant gain, constant power, and exponential fade. And all of these do a very similar thing. When you apply one of these crossfades between 2 media clips with audio, the transition will fade one of the clips down and simultaneously fade the other clip up. And these 3 transitions differ in how much and how fast they crossfade. But they all do a very similar thing. You see that constant power here is highlighted as blue, and if I right-click on it, it's because this one has been set as the default transition. If I wanted to set constant gain, I would right-click and just set that there, or exponential fade. But right now I have it set to constant power. The constant gain crossfade changes audio at a constant rate in and out as it transitions between clips. This crossfade can sometimes sound abrupt, so that one I don't really use. The constant power crossfade creates a smooth, gradual transition, which is more similar to the dissolve transition you might use between 2 video clips. This crossfade decreases audio for the first clip slowly at first, then quickly towards the end of the transition. For the second clip, this crossfade increases audio quickly at first, and then more slowly towards the end of the transition. So this is a pretty smooth audio crossfade right here. The exponential fade fades out the first clip over a smooth logarithmic curve, while fading up this second clip also over a smooth logarithmic curve. So again, all of these do a very similar thing. They fade out one clip while they simultaneously fade in the second clip. So let me show you exactly how these work. I'm going to jump over here in the timeline panel, and let's find one of these transitions that maybe could use a little bit of a crossfade between them. So I'm going to zoom in here right on the playhead with the plus key, and I'll play this little bit right here.
Best of all, easy. Hi, my name is Cheryl.
So that's not super abrupt, but let's hear the difference when we apply a default transition. I can just drag one of these right over to the clip, just like that. I'll just delete that, but it's probably going to be faster if you use the keyboard shortcut. The keyboard shortcut to apply the default audio transition is Control-Shift-D. Control-Shift-D will apply the default audio transition to any clips that are close to the playhead here. And you can see, because these 2 clips are right on the playhead, it applied that transition right here. So let's hear what this sounds like now.
Easy.
It may be a touch smoother.
Easy.
Now I can adjust the size of this transition. If I hover my mouse over, you see that the selection tool changes from a trim tool, which it is right here, to a kind of transition trim tool. So I can click and drag this, and now it'll start fading out this clip sooner and fading this clip in sooner, or the transition will happen over a longer period of time. So now if I play this audio transition here,
Easy. Hi,
you can see it's making a nice smooth fade between these clips. Now, in order for this crossfade to work, there has to be material after this edit right here in order to fade down. If this was the end of the clip and there was nothing after that, then this transition wouldn't have anything to fade down after this point, so it wouldn't work correctly. If I double-click on this clip to bring it up in the source monitor, you can see that this is the in and the out point for this source clip that I have marked to use. Now, the portion of the source clip that I'm not using is called a handle. The handle between the clip's start point and the in point that I marked is sometimes called head material, and the handle between the clip's out point and the end of the media is sometimes called tail material. So when you're applying these transitions, if there's not handles after this edit point and before this edit point, or in other words, if there's not tail material here or head material here, this transition won't work properly because there won't be anything to fade up or fade down. But because there is, this is going to work fine. And in most cases, it's going to work just fine. Now, if I jump back to the beginning, if I try to apply a default transition here, you can see that the transition applies, but again, there's not anything before this point to fade down. So essentially what this is going to do is just fade this clip up very, very subtly. Now, applying an audio transition to do a fade up in this particular case will work, but it's not usually my preference. What I like to use instead is audio clip keyframes. So because I have this clip expanded, I can see the audio waveforms in here. If I collapse this down, I can't. But as soon as I expand this, I can see audio waveforms, I can see what's happening on the left channel and the right channel, and there's a line in between here. And you can see as I hover over this, it says volume level. This is the volume level for this particular clip. And while my selection tool is hovered over here, I can take this volume level and I can push it up, or I can click and drag it down. I'm just going to undo that. I can also hold Control down, and if I click, I can add a keyframe. If I add another keyframe over here, I can adjust the volume of this clip. So what I will frequently do is create my own kind of audio transitions with clip volume level keyframes. So I'll usually drop 2 keyframes in, and then I'll take one of them and I'll pull it down. And so now what's going to happen between this keyframe and this keyframe is the volume is going to start at -infinity, and then it's going to ramp up to 0 decibels over this time period. And so now listen to what's going to happen.
Have you ever had a...
It basically faded in the audio. Now, the reason why I like to use keyframes in this situation over an audio transition is because it's faster. Let me just undo this for a second. The reason why it's faster is because I want this transition to happen between right here, right when she just starts talking, in the beginning of this clip. If I were to try to do that with an audio transition, what I'd have to do is apply the audio transition, and then I would have to adjust it out over here. But you see, at this particular zoom level, I don't get that transition trim tool. What I have to do at this point is zoom in a level, and then I can adjust the transition here so that it will do a similar thing. And this, for me, is an extra step. It's much faster for me to just hover my mouse over here, Control click, click, and then pull it down. For me, that's one less step, and I can do that much, much faster. And now, if I want to make any adjustments to these 2 keyframes, maybe I want to shorten this transition here, so I will hold Shift so that this keyframe snaps to the position that it was previously in. I can move this over to the left. And I can even do that when I'm zoomed way out like this. You can see I can still grab these keyframes and make adjustments, which you cannot do to these transitions here. I cannot grab this transition and make an adjustment. Now, I still can get to the transition adjustment from here, but I have to go over here to the effects controls. And because I have this transition selected, now I can jump up here and I can make an adjustment to it. Now, all of these methods are completely valid and they're completely useful. I'm just showing you my preference. For fades at the beginning and the end of media clips, I typically will use clip volume keyframes. So let's keep playing here and see what we can do to clean up the rest of the audio here.
bakery style chocolate chip cookies. First,
you can see that transition does not sound super hot. So what I would probably do is see if there's enough audio here to extend this so we keep that kind of low-level background noise in there, but we'll massage it a little bit.
Chip cookies. First, I'm
going to apply a default audio transition right here, and then see how that sounds.
First, let's go over.
I think that sounds pretty good, but I'd probably want to make this a little bit bigger. So what I would do is jump up here to the Effects Controls panel and maybe pull this back a little bit.
First,
so I get a nice clean breath there and it's not short sounding. And then I might take this and drop 2 keyframes right here and just pull this down so that this trailing noise comes down a little bit.
First, let's go over the ingredients.
That to me sounds a little bit smoother. Let me jump to the next edit point by hitting the down arrow. And I'll hit it again. Actually, if I want to get to the next edit on video 1 and audio 1, I'll just deselect video 2 and then press down. And that will jump to the next edit point only on video 1 and audio 1.
Before you start a
So that sounds a little bit funny as well. Let me try another audio transition here.
before you
That made it perhaps a little bit smoother, but still there's something not quite right here. Let me just make a little space. I'm going to delete this audio transition, and I'm just going to zoom way up here. You can see on the waveform, it looks like there's a little bit of noise and there's a little bit of junk here in the audio. It looks like there's a little bit of pop or something happens with the microphone right at this point. So there's not a great way to fix this. So what I might do is put 2 keyframes here and 2 keyframes here. I won't fade them all the way down, but I will reduce the intensity in this transition.
before you start assembling
And that, to me, sounds just a little bit better. It sounds like this whole audio track on all these clips could use just a hair of denoising. But for right now, I think these audio transitions will help a lot. There's certainly a lot more to learn about working with audio in Premiere, but with these 2 things, audio transitions and clip volume keyframes, you can very quickly massage the transition between your clips and make the audio sound much smoother. In the next lesson, you're going to get a brief overview of the video effects available in Adobe Premiere Pro.